I'm pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar on empowering women through financial inclusion, the impactful role of PAYGo Solar models. This event is hosted by Smiling Through Light and supported by Global Distributors Collective. Before we start, I'd like to cover some general housekeeping. So this meeting will be recorded and all information will be shared after the event. If anyone has any questions during the session, please put it in the chat box, and during the Q&A session, we'll cover them. We really would like to leave people with some information on financial inclusion as well as PAYGo. Before getting right into it, I'd like to give some background to financial inclusion. Globally, around 620 million adults with bank accounts still pay their utility bills in cash. Promoting investment in PAYGo systems can enhance financial service usage among account holders by allowing payment in installments. If we then zoom the lens onto sub-Saharan Africa, home to 2/3 of the global population without electricity access, it also represents 80% of the market for off-grid solar devices. There are a couple of reasons why the empowerment of women is central to financial inclusion. Firstly, women are more likely than men to be unbanked, with about 740 million women lacking an account. Secondly, women are the primary energy consumers in households, using things in regular lighting and cooking. So as a result, they bear a disproportionate burden of financial exclusion in addition to energy access issues that are already there. Then by taking a look at the PAYGo Solar model, it can offer us many benefits, the main one being that PAYGo's innovative financial model can tie payments to their actual solar energy use, which offers flexibility and enables households to align payments with their financial capabilities. PAYGo models address the dual challenges of energy access and financial inclusion for over 1 billion people, mainly in rural and low-income areas. So I hope that gives you a bit of background. And I'd like to firstly introduce Mariama Kamara, who is founder of Smiling Through Light, to give us the keynote address.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for that brief background and introduction, and thank you all. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you're joining in from. Thank you very much for attending our webinar entitled Empowering Women Through Financial Inclusion, the Impactful Role of Solar PAYGo Models. My name is Mariama Kamara, and I'm the founder and director of Smiling Through Light. Smiling Through Light's goal is to dramatically improve the lives of last-mile communities by using innovative community solutions to solve the critical problem of energy access. We provide clean, reliable, and sustainable energy through the distribution and sales of solar PAYGo products in Sierra Leone. By working with and through a network of local women, we create jobs and income opportunities, igniting the potential of women to dramatically improve their lives by lifting themselves and their communities out of poverty. Even though this is our overall vision, this topic is of importance for us, not only for Sierra Leone, West Africa, but throughout Sub-Saharan Africa, ensuring that women play an active role in the just energy transition. Our journey started in 2011 after learning about the energy access problem in Sierra Leone, where currently only 26% of our population has access to electricity. This number drops down to 6% in the country's rural areas, with over 6 million people living without energy access, without clean energy access. We started our operations selling on a cash basis, solar PAYGo and lanterns in 2019. We sold over 850 products, impacting 7,650 people, moving them from kerosene to clean energy products. When the pandemic hit, we started noticing defaults in our payments and had phone consultations with our team and customers to find out the reasons why. Customers really emphasized the need for digital technology and solutions, especially using mobile payments. We secured some grant funding from the School for Social Entrepreneurs and Project Rome Foundation to conduct a pilot study on the use of PAYGo with foreseeable products and using the Solaris PayGo's platform. In May 2023, we published a learning report entitled Examining the Journey and Impact of PAYGo Solar Home Systems, which was written by Dr. Paul Yila from the Energy Nexus Network 10, based in Sierra Leone, and I can see him online now. So if you have any questions around that, I'm sure he can address those. Some of the key learnings that came from that was that he held a focus group discussion with 109 of our customers. The data from that showed that 42% of our customers were female, mainly traders and wives. The customer age group was between 30 to 49 years. And an interesting thing was that with all the customers that were surveyed through the focus group, all of them had mobile phone except for one. From this learning, we knew that going forward, digital tech, digital solutions, PAYGo, financial inclusion, and supporting women was the way forward. So we introduced a new customer credit assessment policy and procedure. We switched all our products to PayGops with funding from the Whole Food Markets Foundation, who you'd hear from later on today, and started working with a new manufacturer, Spark, who you'd also hear from today, still using the Solaris PayGops platform for all our customer relations, sending of automated digital codes and messages to our customers. So from Smiling Through Light's perspective, why is PAYGo useful? One, if you look at economic growth, we know that using digital technology, which allows our customers to pay small regular payments through PAYGo systems, removes the burden of large loans and debt obligations for customers at the bottom of the pyramid. We also know that it has a transformative impact, supplying affordable energy products to customers with limited cash flows and savings. Because you're doing digital billing via your mobile phone or by mobile money payments, it makes your payments much more flexible, which greatly increases the risk associated to carrying cash. Also, the PAYGo system also provides an opportunity to build creditworthiness. Through making consistent, punctual payments, our customers now have the chance to demonstrate their financial reliability. This helps them to create a positive credit history, which can have a knock-on effect by improving future access to loans and financial products, meaning customers will become economically empowered in all areas of their lives. Second, if you look at community impact, the impact of safe, clean, and reliable energy access on rural families reaches far beyond economic factors. Studies have clearly shown the correlation between the use of clean energy products and children's educational outcomes. The use of solar devices tackles the risks associated with indoor air pollution from traditional fuels, which reduces school absences and improves the domestic study spaces and educational facilities. So this is not from me, but this is from one of our customers, and she quotes, "My status in my neighborhood has improved. Children in my neighborhood come to my home to study every night. My neighbors like and respect me because their children are performing well at school." So if you have a busy family, the flexibility and efficiency of PAYGo system frees up time for especially women to focus on other household activities. The impact for women. PAYGo financing for off-grid solar devices can be a conducive for achieving the twin goals of last-mile energy access and financial inclusion of women in low-income households, which ultimately improves the quality of lives and livelihoods. The appliances can reduce women's workload at home, provide greater flexibility in how and when women can perform domestic chores, and free up more time for income-generating activities. PAYGo financing can expand household access to financial services that may prove useful to women. So they enable women customers to build transaction histories that financial providers can use to underwrite loans and increase women's access to finance. This is something that Smiling Through Light is really, really interested on. And next year, hopefully, we want to try and get some more support to do a big piece of research looking at transaction history and how women can go further to get over loans, not traditional loans, but for microfinance, building their credit histories and scores through the PAYGo system. Last but not least, what impact has it had on our team? Smiling Through Light's been growing over the last couple of years. For date now, we have a team of 6, but by the end of November, we'd have a team of 13, thanks to funding from the EA Foundation. We're growing, our hubs are growing, and we're having an impact in Sierra Leone. So for us, technology is the way forward. We believe that using technology solutions in terms of finance, in terms of our operations, in terms of how we use clean energy products, makes our work much more efficient, it makes it much more effective, and it's also good for our data collection and impact study. I close. When women and community members have access to PAYGo finances, it enables them to access off-grid energy devices, establishing credit and repayment data trials, which not only builds independence, but also economic opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariama. That was some good information there. Next, I'd like to introduce our speakers to give us some more in-depth information about the topics we'll be covering today. Firstly is Rebecca Rhodes, the Senior Strategy and Programs Manager at Gogler, and I'd like her to talk in more detail about PAYGo Solar models and give an overview of the data so far.
Thanks for that. Hopefully, are you seeing the full screen or are you seeing the presenters mode, just so that I can check?
All good, Rebecca.
All good? Okay, thanks. Yeah, so hi everyone, and great to see so many of you joined today. I've been at Gogler since the beginning of 2020 and have worked on several areas, including consumer protection, circularity, and some of our gender inclusion work as well. For those of you that don't know Gogler, we are the voice of the off-grid solar industry. We believe that to reach SDG 7 and universal energy access, there has to be a healthy industry which is properly financed, which is supported by appropriate policies and infrastructure, and companies are kind of well-performing and responsible in the way that they operate and serve customers' needs. And currently, over 500 million people access electricity through off-grid solar products. But we need to increase this by to 1 billion by 2030. So there's still lots more work to do as an industry. At the Global Off-Grid Solar Forum in Kenya earlier this month, we launched the latest market trends report, which shows that off-grid solar is so essential to meeting energy access goals. It's the fastest and cheapest way to provide electricity to 41% of people who currently don't have access. So that's 400 million people. And many of those are women who are facing the biggest burden of energy poverty and climate change as well. It can support agricultural value chains and underpin productivity. Again, an area where we know that women hold unique roles in productive value chains, and so need the well-targeted solutions for that as well. And then another area, again, so vital for women, is in the opportunity to power healthcare facilities and schools as well. So how does pay-as-you-go or PAYGo fit in to this kind of pathway and help us reach those goals? So PAYGo, it's been the dominant consumer financing model for larger solar home systems for some years. And across all product types, that's lanterns to solar water pumps, we see more and more PAYGo sales made each year. So in the 5 years from 2018, that kind of went up from 24% of all sales to 39% of all sales. It's helping to close the affordability gap by reducing the upfront costs of this life-changing products and reducing the barriers faced, particularly by women in traditional credit markets. We are doing a lot of work at the moment on improving credit risk management in the PAYGo sector, and we often look to the financial inclusion or MFI space for learnings. But we also need to recognise that the PAYGo sector goes much further than traditional MFIs. It reaches far more people below the poverty line than microfinance. And I think 60 Decibels have the data in their financial inclusion and energy benchmarks to back that up. And why is that? It's because it has to be, you know, to meet energy access goals, we need to go beyond urban and peri-urban areas into really remote villages that just haven't been reached by credit and financial services previously. So we are you know, looking to learn the lessons, but we also need to kind of keep charting our own way as pay-as-you-go, and we recognise that it does need to be sustainable for companies and investors, and that too has shown that it is possible in the sector. So it can, for many customers, especially women, again, who struggle to kind of access formal financial services, PAYGo payments are the first time they are able to build a credit history in many cases. And this can then unlock further products or services, either from the PAYGo provider, many of whom now supply add-on services like insurances or educational loans. Or we're also looking at how we can integrate PAYGo markets in some of the more mature countries to formal CRB systems to really kind of boost that financial inclusion for off-grid solar customers. And then finally, just wanted to note that there's no single model for pay-as-you-go consumer financing, and companies are kind of innovating and figuring out the best ways to serve the people that, you know, need to be served. So we usually think of pay-as-you-go as a rent-to-own models, but there's also new discussions around looking at pay-as-you-go leasing or energy as a service that can really reduce energy access costs for customers. But all of this is really dependent still on the pay-as-you-go technology and the systems that kind of underpin that. Yeah, and I wanted to just quickly touch on some of the data that we collect as Gogler from the PAYGo sector using the PAYGo Perform metrics. So these are a standard suite of KPIs that companies can use to measure the performance of their portfolio at customer, cohort, and company level. This is an example of the industry level data that we collect and report, which gives a benchmark for the industry. And against this benchmark, companies and investors can compare their own performance or their own portfolio's performance and really understand, you know, where they can improve their own operations. What we're seeing in this graph here is the kind of knock-on effects of macroeconomic factors over the last few years that have been affecting customer payments. So starting with COVID, food price increase and inflation. But companies recently have been focusing quite hard on improving credit risk management. And the latest data you can see in the last 12 months, the 2023, is showing, you know, some small improvements, and we're hoping that this trend will continue as well. I'll get touch more later on kind of why it's important to also use PAYGo performance standardization. But also, you know, we do have a gap. So at an industry level, we aggregate everything together. But one of my hopes is that at company level, we're able to disaggregate the portfolio quality KPIs so that companies and their investors can really look at what that data is telling them about different segments of their customer base and really understand how that they can best serve different demographics. So with better disaggregated data, you could also have companies in the industry can better understand how customers pay, how they use their products, and how to better meet their needs. I pulled out just this small data point from the latest market trends report, as well as we often think of productive uses as, you know, the big things like solar water pumps. But for many women, a solar lantern, a small, you know, very entry-level product, means that they can sell their produce for longer at night, for example. And so it really has kind of a benefit outside of their household, really kind of converting that into income and improved quality of life as well. So we have so much more data available to hand now, but we just need to use it. And yeah, so with that, I'll leave my kind of opening remarks and looking forward to getting into the discussion as well.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was really nice to see the kind of data laid out in front of us. Next, I'd like to take it to Amber Devine, who is Project Manager and Process Information Manager, as well as Stella Cossa, Solar Technician, who are both working at Spark, to give us some overview of how PAYGo Solar products and systems work.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And indeed, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Very nice to be here. A really brief introduction. Who are we? So as Radhika already mentioned, my name is Amber. I work as a project manager at Spark. And previous to this role, I was actually working on partnerships in West Africa, which is also where I met Mariama. I'm currently based out of the Netherlands and working for Spark on a global level. And I'm here together with Stella. Maybe Stella, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone is well. I'm honored to be here and thank you for this opportunity.
Perfect. You will hear more from Stella in a bit. She will bring all the good insights from the field and some really interesting perspectives on how it is to be a solar technician, a female solar technician and manager in the field. But as mentioned, we'll first introduce a little bit about how do pay-as-you-go models work, how it can help people grow on the energy ladder. We'll do some examples from the field. But maybe really briefly, so we both work for Spark, and Spark is, as Mariam already mentioned, a manufacturer of solar home systems, and we do only Verasol certified solar home systems. Besides selling in Sierra Leone, we're selling in over 23 countries, all in sub-Saharan Africa. Pay as you go. Very simply said, you pay for something as you use it. And what does that mean practically? I think we already heard also in Rebecca's talk, good solar home systems are expensive and a lot of the times too expensive for most people in rural areas. And pay-as-you-go increases the affordability of those kind of products. Pay-as-you-go offers payment terms that allow people to pay for their product over time. Usually it starts with the distributor doing a credit check to find a suitable payment plan. And then usually the customer will pay a deposit for the product and a fixed amount per month for a set number of months. And as Rebecca also already mentioned, there is a variety of pay-as-you-go models. And I think this is the classic model, and at least the model that we as Spark see for most of our distributors being used at the moment. Usually the payments can be done via mobile money, which is exactly the technology step that Mariama mentioned. I have a very brief video of how that works. Let's see if that works well.
With our included pay-as-you-go system, Spark Solar Kits can be paid over an extended period of time. Power your future with our plug-and-play solar kits. Let tomorrow be a bright day.
So basically, people will have a system at home which will consist of a battery and the screen, a solar panel, and then usually a couple of lights, maybe some other appliances. Could be a fan, a TV, a radio. This is what the battery with the screen looks like. And the screen is basically what allows for the pay-as-you-go model. So people can pay via mobile money and they will receive a token on their phone. And that token can be entered on the screen as what you just saw in the video. And that code unlocks the product for a number of days. So the number of days depends on the token that you bought. And then the battery can be used to power appliances. And also, the appliances that you see here, for example, in the photo. Each distributor of ours has their own options in terms of payment options. Most will offer a cash option and then 1 to 3 pay-as-you-go options. So for example, a payment term over 6 months, 12 months, some even up to 24 months, where people pay a down payment and then that fixed amount for a number of months. And after those months, the customer will own the product. So for example, Smiling Through Light, they will offer a payment term where customers will pay an initial deposit and then they will pay 6 monthly installments. And after those monthly installments, the product is theirs. That all sounds amazing, but also brings a couple of challenges. First one was already mentioned a bit, receiving cash from customers. So for that reason, it's really important that companies that offer this do a really good credit check on their customers. But even then, it still means that distributors receive cash only over a period of time. And often manufacturers don't offer that same flexibility in payment terms. There are not a lot of manufacturers that say, oh, sure, you can match the same pay-as-you-go model. You can pay me back over 24 months. So their funders can play a really big role in supporting companies with inventory financing. And I also wanted to highlight that Spark is offering financing to partners where part is paid up front and the remaining part is paid over 2 to 3 years to match the cash flow of our distributors. But we still see a really big gap and a challenge with our distributors that there's a need for that inventory financing. And to cover a little bit of the gap, we are also setting up our own investment funds to hopefully help even more partners in the future. I also wanted to highlight a little bit how pay-as-you-go can contribute to people climbing up the energy ladder. So the Spark products are all modular, so people can start with, in this example, a Spark Start kit, where they have 1 battery, 3 lights, a solar panel, and a radio. And the idea is that they pay for that specific kit over, in this case, 18 months. And for example, a distributor can see in the course of the first 9 months that a customer pays really well, timely, every month. And then we want to offer the option to add another battery with a couple of lights so that the customer can keep paying. We know it's a well-paying customer. And by doing this, the customer can slowly climb on the energy ladder. So add a couple of lights, then maybe add a TV, add another battery so it can last longer, like the runtime is higher. And later on, Stella will also share an example of how it doesn't only contribute to climbing up the energy ladder, but also the credit ladder, as Mariama also mentioned already in her introduction. Enough theory for now. We thought it's also fun to share actually some photos, some examples from the field. How does pay-as-you-go then work out in practice? there already mentioned, yeah, it can help. Just a small light can already offer women the possibility to keep their shop open a little bit longer at night. So I have some photos from this lady in DRC having a shop with a couple of spark lights. And I also visited this lady in Liberia who had the same, a really, really small shop and only a 10-watt panel. But the lights, yeah, allowed her to keep her shop open at night. With that, I will give the floor to Stella to share some more examples with us.
Hey everyone, once again. By the way, I'm an electrical engineer working at Dynamis in Mozambique. So Mozambique is a country facing severe poverty where only 35% of the country, the population, has access to secure electricity. 60% of the country lives under the poverty line, which is like $2.15 per individual per day. So pay-as-you-go allows customers to actually afford payments rather than facing high upfront costs. This model is especially beneficial for people or families, rural families, as it offers a flexible path to ownership without any financial strain, as they are able to pay weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. In the company that I work for, we have like 10,000 clients, and 66% of those clients are actually women. Women are the ones who manage and maintain the system, or should I say that actually work with pay-as-you-go. This impacts positively to their lives. 89% of those women say they actually use the system for lighting, which brings more safety, as they don't have to use candles anymore and kerosene that are the number one reason of house fires in their community. This also reduces indoor pollution. I would like to talk a little bit about this picture. I did it when I traveled to some rural, remote areas in my country. It's actually a household, 4 people live there, but the husband is not there. The husband opened their contract as the owner of the contract, but he had to leave. Usually he's there once a month, and then the rest of the days he's working. So for them to feel secure, he made sure he bought them a solar system. They are able to also not just it's not only for security. They're also able to cook later during the night, so that they can preserve the food. They don't have fridges. Cooking later on makes sure that the food can last till the next day or a bit longer. The woman in yellow, the mother, also said it gives her more time to work on her craft. She does craft work and she sells it, and they're able to actually pay the system. Would you please go to the next one? This one was very interesting. This woman actually works, she has a farm, and she sells vegetables that she grows from a farm. She is a mother of actually 6, and she's almost done with the contract, and she's interested in climbing the energy ladder. She is now interested. She has the basic kit, and she's now interested in having a television so that she can entertain her kids, also her grandchildren. And what I also found interesting, like a few weeks back, I went to a client's house, and the client is almost done using the system. It was also a woman, the pay-as-you-go. She was like, I would like to have a fridge. And we were like, and she's like, I would like to have a fridge. Is it possible for you guys to give me a fridge? And we're like, okay, what we can do for you is buy you a fridge. It's actually outside what we usually have. We don't have fridges. You'll buy her a fridge, and then she'll be paying little by little, as we said, bi-weekly or monthly, using pay-as-you-go. So for us, or in my country, this really is giving a positive impact. It is contributing directly to their lives. Children can study more later on, do their homeworks. This woman also, she, just like what Mariama said, the neighbors come to her house to do their homeworks at night. So it is actually working positively. I would like to I'm actually looking forward to Audrey, who will be going more into depth about our financial inclusion, about financial inclusion impact of PAYGo solar products on women. And let tomorrow, as you can see, let tomorrow be a bright day. That's what we always say. Spark is there to brighten our day.
Thanks, Amber and Stella. It's been really nice understanding how those solar products and systems work, especially in the practical world. So it's great to see that. And next, I'd like to hand over to Audrey, who is a senior associate at 60 Decibels, and she'll be telling us a bit about the financial inclusion side of things and the impact of PAYGo solar products on women.
Thank you, Radhika, for the introduction. Just going to share my screen. Hi, everyone. As Radhika mentioned, I'm Audrey, and I'm a senior associate at the Nairobi 60 Decibels office. And today I will be sharing a little bit from the data about the impact of PAYGo solar systems on customers' lives. So at the beginning of the year, we launched the Why Off-Grid Energy Matters report. And this report is one of the most comprehensive social impact assessment of the off-grid sector based off customer voices. So as you can see from the screen, we listened to over 79,000 respondents in over 30 countries, and we included over 160 companies. And from here, we were able to understand the impact of the off-grid energy sectors in different subsectors. So we spoke to solar home system customers, we spoke to mini-grid customers, appliances, and so forth. And today I'm going to focus on some of the 6 things to know, at least when it comes to the impact of the off-grid energy sector and the products on the lives of women and men. So first off, looking at the gender presentation across the product types. For the women we spoke to, 33% of customers were female, and they often had access to lower cost products like solar lanterns and clean cooking devices. So this has not changed at all since we released our report in 2020. So in 2020, we still see the same trend where women are underrepresented in the customer databases of the companies and organizations that we're working with. So this really goes on to show just an area of lack where we need more representation in terms of who are the users of the solar off-grid solutions that we have available. And again, as you can see there, we have female customers represented within the solar lantern subcategory. We see that 42% of the customers are female, so slightly higher than the average that we had. And of course, maybe not surprisingly, in the cooking sector, we see that 59% of the users that we spoke with were female. And then one of the things that we noted in the data was that we had 3/4 of customers accessing off-grid energy products through credit. So we had 74% who accessed it through credit. And then of those who are accessing the product through credit, we see that 72% of them say that this was their first access to credit. So it really goes on to show how financing within the off-grid energy sector is really key in terms of enabling not just access to energy, but just financially including a lot of the people who are left behind and will not have had that chance. And then when we look at the fast time access and ease of use. So when we talk about fast time access, we really want to see companies, organizations reaching populations that were previously underserved, populations that did not have many options. And we see that women are slightly more likely than men to report fast time access. As you can see, 78% of women said that they did not have a product like the company provided to them when we asked them that question. And then in terms of ease of use just refers to the ability of customers to be able to use products without any challenges, and really impacts a lot of the time satisfaction. It also impacts the benefits that a user can get. Obviously, if you're experiencing a challenge with your product, you'll likely end up either not using the product, or if you are using the product, you're not able to get the maximum benefit from the product. And we see that 30% of women report usage challenges compared to 33% of men. So this is an area that we've seen has been struggling since we first released the reports in 2020 till now. And it's one of the areas time and time again, when we present our results to the organizations that we work with, we see that challenges and just also challenge resolution is one of the key areas where companies are struggling, and one of the areas where we see when people are reporting challenges, they're less likely to be satisfied. They also report just lesser impact in the areas that we usually assess. So some of the quality of life changes that, you know, they could have ideally be experiencing, they're reporting less of a significant impact. In terms of the health changes, safety changes, all areas are actually impacted when we see high usage challenges. And then in terms of satisfaction and net promoter score, I know most of you are familiar with this industry standard question, where we ask about the likelihood of a user to recommend the product to either a friend or a family member. We see that women show a higher satisfaction as compared to men. So the net promoter of women is 45 as compared to 39 for men. So women are, you know, recommending products. They are likely to recommend products. They are quite satisfied with the products and the benefits that they are getting from this access to this new energy. And then this is a key area, right? As we're talking about financing, and you know, the financing is great. People are accessing credit, perhaps for the first time through all of the energy companies. But of course, there are pros and cons when it comes to financing, and this is a concern that we're currently working with Gogla to really assess what are some of the risks, both for the consumers and for the organization, in terms of providing credit for this products. So we see that women slightly demonstrate better resilience, financial resilience, and this is a question we usually ask, whether customers are finding their payments to be burdensome or not a problem. And we see that 75% of women find payments not a problem, and 71% of men find the payments not to be a problem. And so in terms of repaying the credits, we see that users, and there are studies that show that women tend to be better, more cautious at managing their finances, and that really translates to also being able to manage the payments for the credits when they get new energy products. So this is one of the questions that we really find important to understand. So beyond thinking about, are people accessing products for the first time that they did not have previous access to, and really looking at, do they have other options in the market, is really trying to understand what is the impact of these products in customers' lives. And we see that energy products provide universal quality of life benefits. And so one of the questions that we ask is, has the quality of your life changed since accessing the product? And we see that 55% of women report material impact on their quality of life as compared to 54% of them. And you can see that lovely quote on the left side of the screen that says, just having light in a village with no electricity is a great life-changing event. My daughter is very excited that she's no longer sleeps in the dark. And this is some of the things we see where people are talking about moving from either having no source of energies to sometimes using candles or torch flashlight, or even their phone light, to having access to a solar lantern, solar home system, and really moving up that energy ladder. Talking about the energy ladder, as we like to think about it as energy staircase, because most of the time we find that people are not really completely abandoning their previous sources of energy. Rather, they're stacking up the different sources. So you might find they will still use kerosene lamp even though they are using a solar lantern. And so usually we will ask people, what were you using previously? What are you using now, and how has the usage changed? So we try to capture sources before, sources currently, and also just that change in usage. Are they using their previous sources less because they now have this new, more reliable, less polluting source of energy? And we see here that women face barriers in accessing higher tier energy products, and also women, we have 49% of women moving up that energy staircase as compared to 56% of men. So this really shows that gap, and which is not surprising, as I had mentioned, that men are more likely to be accessing the higher cost products as opposed to women. And I just wanted to highlight here solar lanterns, and this is one of my favorite findings probably from the data, where we see that while solar lantern might not be up there in the energy staircase, it still provides one of the biggest impact we've seen throughout the other sectors. So in terms of quality of life improvements that respondents mentioned, it is a top performer in this area. So we see companies providing solar lanterns have 64% of them, of their customers saying that their quality of life has improved. We also see that they are top performers when it comes to ease of use. So this is looking at how many users are, experiencing the product or using the product with no challenges. And also we see that in terms of satisfaction, they are also a top performer compared to other subcategories like solar home systems. And so here we see the importance of really providing that early access while it might seem basic. And this is where, again, given the economic disparities between men and women, we find that with solar lanterns, women tend to be a bit more represented in this subsector as compared to other sectors. I also wanted to highlight one of the initiatives that we did, and this is where we decided to think about what companies are not included, who in the sector do we really not get to hear their voices. And so through the partnership with Good Energies, Doing Foundation, and Transforming Energy Access, we were able to include companies who are locally owned, women-led into our data set. And one of the best things, and perhaps not surprising, was that we see that locally owned and or women-led organization generate higher impacts, are more inclusive. They also have high satisfaction rate, and also see lower customer over-indebtedness. So that's so specifically for women-led organization. So this really just goes on to show that being more inclusive, not just in terms of the customers that organizations, companies are reaching, but also thinking about who is leading these organizations, and are women represented? Are they getting funding to be able to lead and to be able to reach out to those customers that ideally will be left behind? This is an area that we have data that actually validates these findings, that they are creating higher impact as compared to male-led organizations. I also wanted to just shine a light on AgriPut Solar. So this is a case study of how a women-led, locally owned company is really creating impact. So one of their models is that 95% of their community agents are women, and when we interviewed them, trying to really understand how are they creating this impact, what is their approach, we see that they said that, you know, women really understand community needs, and they're able to provide tailored solutions to meet specific household needs. So if you're thinking in terms of what are some of the customer service issues, what might be some of the product modifications that users might need in order to experience the utmost impact, this is one of the areas that this is how they do their work. And through this, they're able to build trust with their customers. They're able to build rapport and strengthen those community relationships, which in turn improves customer satisfaction. And then, of course, I'll be amiss if I do not shine a light on Smiling Through Light. I met Mariama through the initiative that we did last year, and Smiling Through Light is included in the reports that I just mentioned as one of the top performances in customer service. And so this is a question that we typically ask, and while it is important that, you know, customers are satisfied, and we get that through the Net Promoter Score question, really customer service is key. How easy is it for customers to be able to resolve some of the issues that are facing? And we ask customers on a scale of 5 to 1, of from strongly agree to strongly disagree, how they feel about the statement that overall a company made it easy for them to handle their issue. And so from here, we're able to calculate the customer effort score, which is the average rating of all customers who have experienced a challenge. And so this is, again, an area where we see when customers are able to resolve their issues in a fast and efficient way, they're able to go back to using the product, because a lot of the times we also see that once customers experience a challenge, they abandon products and end up, you know, either going back to their more costly, more polluting products, or sometimes perhaps just like leaving the company and opting for another product. And so in terms of just retaining the customers, in terms of improving their experience and improving their satisfaction, this is an area that Smiling Through Life is doing so well, and I would love to commend them. So I just want to end the presentation thinking about what are some of the key takeaways, what are some of the lessons we see through the data that we have so far. And one of the things is that the gender-sensitive models show great potential. As we have seen, women tend to report higher satisfaction and fewer payment challenges with PAYGo products. And so this is an area where if women are, you know, included, so that we increase that number from, you know, having 33% of women in most of the companies on average in the company's customer database, and increasing that to almost an equal number, we can see greater impact through this initiative. And then another thing is importance of flexible payment models and financial support. While it's so great to see the impact that PAYGo is having, of course, there is a risk that customers can become indebted, and of course, women more so in cases where they do not have access to the same decision-making power as men in a lot of households. And so providing flexible payment options thinking about what are some of the barriers that women might face in terms of accessing that credit, and seeing how we can increase the affordability and ensure that they are able to gain this service. And lastly, and most importantly, just the importance of investing in women-led and locally owned enterprises, which is very much what Smiling Through Light is, given that we have data showing that these companies often achieve higher customer satisfaction and impact. There's no reason to hear that, women-led organizations tend to have, less funding compared to male-led organizations, because they are creating such a positive impact, and including them will be one of the key ways that we will be able to reach all of the different populations and really leave no one behind. Thank you so much. I've come to the end of my presentation, and we do have some reports out there. So I've mentioned the Why Off-Grid Energy Matters report that we released this year. We also have just a blog highlighting the role of women in the off-grid sector, and some of the new insights on gender and microfinance that will be beneficial in case you want to read more and gain access to our data. Thank you. Over to you, Radhika.
Thanks, Audrey. It was very eye-opening to see that data, and especially to see the satisfaction results that women actually feel some satisfaction with these kind of PAYGo Solar models and things like that, making such a difference. And in addition to that, it impacting the quality of life, which was really nice to see. Next, we will go to our panel discussion. Before we open up questions to the audience, I'm wary of time, so I will try to keep it as short as possible. Our first question, which will be to Rebecca Rhodes, will be, why is data reporting and collection important for the sector?
Hiya. Yeah, so I think I'm going to touch for this briefly on the PAYGo Perform initiative. So this was, we're actually currently developing a version 3 of the KPIs using the lessons that we've continued to gain from the last couple of years. But the idea behind the PAYGo Perform initiative is that there's an industry standard that reflects best practice for how do we really measure, monitor and report performance around pay-as-you-go. And it's important because I think as an industry, we need to make sure that we're comparing apples with apples, so that companies really understand, okay, how are they doing in comparison to an industry benchmark? And the investors can also take that view and really look at a company very transparently, very kind of in a standardized way, so that they understand, fully how their portfolio quality is performing, and where those kind of improvement areas could be, where they're doing well, and what else they need to do as well. And the PAYGo Perform initiative was really developed in consultation with the industry as a whole, both investors and companies. And it also comes along with a lot of technical guidance that can really help particularly younger and small companies understand the KPIs, how to apply them, and how to really use them in a way that's going to help them manage their pay-as-you-go business as well. I'll pop a link in the chat as well for anyone that's kind of not familiar with it and is more interested as well. But I did touch earlier though, and I think when we're talking about data, we really do need to, at a company level, as a minimum, really make sure that we're collecting sex disaggregated data and KPIs as well. And I think this is currently a gap that we have in the sector. We did some work not too long ago on consumer protection and gender. And my colleague and I spoke to quite a lot of companies, and not many of them were actually collecting or using sex disaggregated payment or after sales data in any meaningful way. And without that lens, we're really missing some important insights that can help companies kind of tweak operations and really make sure that they're meeting the needs of women customers as well. I'll leave it there just in the interest of time. Yeah,
thanks, Rebecca. No, it's very important, as you said, to have that sex disaggregated data, because we can't really base off much of what we're targeting to that unless we kind of have the data and things like that. So yeah, thanks for that. We'll move swiftly on to Stella and Amber. Whoever wants to speak, or both of you can speak. But your experience as a female solar technician, particularly towards Stella, I guess, managing other solar technicians, what is that experience like, and what kind of things have you learned from your day-to-day role?
Okay, as a Mozambican woman, being a solar technician has been a bit challenging, I won't lie, because when I got there, I was like the youngest woman. Imagine, the youngest technician, and I became their manager. It was challenging, but for me, it's like the result is wonderful. I was able to convince them. All of them now trust me. When I got there, everyone was like, "Oh, what is this child doing here? What is this girl doing here?" But now they trust me. They let me lead them. They always have my back, and I always have their back. And I've grown so much professionally, and I've learned a lot, because being humble, first of all, we have to be humble. I was humble enough to learn from them, and they are learning from me. So for me, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds like you've learned as you've gone along and kind of just jumped in there and in the deep
Yeah,
end,
I
kind
did.
of.
I had to learn from them. Most of them are like the age of my father. So I was like, whoa, when I got there, I was like, whoa, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And then I was like, Stella, you're an electrical engineer, put yourself together, you can do this. And today I can travel. I go out, I travel. I have a 5-month baby, and I'm like, your mom is an electrical engineer. She is responsible for a team of 15 men. I lead 15 men. And I wouldn't lie, it's eye-opening and daily growing, being able to go to the field, connecting with female, as we know, the impact that solar energy has in my country is really mind-blowing. And yeah, that's all I can say.
And yeah, that's a great representation of a female leader who's kind of leading all these men and things like that. So definitely the empowerment of women kind of comes out in that. So thank you. My next question is to Audrey. What would you say, from your experience, what does financial inclusion for women mean to you, and what would you say about that?
Yeah, so financial inclusion for me means that women are able to access, afford, and benefit from, financial products and services, in order to improve their economic independence, so that they're able to even make decisions, make decisions without necessarily always consulting their spouse. I think things like that for me is how I think about financial inclusion, and in the PAYGo Solar context, especially, is really trying to think about what are some of the very gendered experiences of women in terms of accessing credit, and how can we design whether it's payment plans to align with the experiences of women. So whether it's thinking about perhaps women not having regular income, and so there's varied income patterns, how can we ensure then that those women do not miss out on this opportunity because they don't have regular income? Like, how can we design a payment plan that will suit those experiences, those real life experiences? It's also about consumer protection, and I think Rebecca has touched a little bit on it, but I think as more and more people are accessing credit, really thinking about how are we going to support women so that then they don't end up over indebted and perhaps even worse off than where they were before. And so that is really, yeah, when I think about financial inclusion, I think that, and it's really ultimately empowering women to be able to control financial decisions, leading to positive impacts on health, whether they're making a decision to, I don't know, purchase a clean cooking device. It's not a man who has to make that decision. They are also included in things where it really affects the experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Audrey. It's always important to see how we put things in place and how that affects actually what we're putting out there. I think that ties into what Rebecca was saying earlier about the fact that we don't have enough data to kind of support women's financial inclusion within the space. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear. Thanks. And I think we'll move on to an audience question. So one of the questions was, and I think it's probably mostly addressed to Stella and Amber, but anyone can kind of chip in and say what they think about it. So the first question was, how do you profile your communities for the PAYGo model, particularly in communities who do not have access to mobile banking?
Stella, maybe can you share something from your experience, especially in Mozambique, and maybe I can add from some other partners how they do it?
Okay. Sorry, could you please repeat the question? I thought Amber was going to answer. Sorry, could you please?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, how do you, like, in your day-to-day kind of profile your communities for the PAYGo model, particularly when there's a lack of access to mobile banking? I don't know if this is best suited to you or whether Rebecca would have more of that kind of framework.
Maybe actually let me then answer first, because maybe I can. So I think if there's no mobile banking around, we do still see some partners that really go on a pay-as-you-go in with cash, which is quite a logistical challenge. You will have a model where people go around to customers on a monthly basis, or customers can go to a nearby agent of the distributor, and then they have to pay in cash, and then that agent will be able to share a code with the client. So it is not ideal, but possible to do it on a cash basis. Stella wants to chip in.
So most of our clients live in remote areas, and it's very normal for them not to have mobile banking. So what we also have collection agents. Our agents are there. We have a few agents that are located in their areas who can go and help them do the payments. They pay and then they get the code and then they give it to the client. That's how we do it. We also have a few, for example, now we usually talk to people who work actually with mobile banking. We speak to the person, we give him our code, and we ask him to assist our clients in change. We give them a system where we recharge every month. We've encountered such experiences. Some people actually they do have mobile banking, but they don't have access to internet, or they have no network at all. So at the end, we always have to send our agents to help with the collection rate.
I think I'll just add to that, and I totally agree. So we did some work with our consumer protection lens, and looking at the unique or particularly heightened risks for women customers. And every year GSMA put out a report looking at the gender gap on mobile access. And the latest data showed that women are 19% less likely to use mobile internet and mobile money accounts. So I think when we build a pay-as-you-go model that's based pretty much wholly on mobile money payments, if we don't think of the exceptions to that, then we're inherently just excluding 19% of women from even accessing that. So I think it's really important that companies do think about what is the exceptions and how do we put in place a mechanism so that those women can still continue to pay and access even if they don't have mobile money, and do so in a way that's safe and keeps them protected, because we also know that women that don't have access to mobile money accounts also are more susceptible to agent fraud. So because they're relying on agents and they're handing over cash, if companies don't have kind of robust processes for that, then it kind of leaves a bit of loopholes that it puts women at greater risk. So definitely it's something that I think needs to be considered and needs to be kind of designed in as well, that it does happen, even though pay-as-you-go is really about mobile money payments.
We usually have very trustworthy agents. For example, we have a place called Katwani. They always have money, but they only have cash. Those people earn from fishing and farming. So we go there every 25th of the month. They've already scheduled with us. They're like, come in and we'll pay 3 months in advance. So it's funny how people who have no access to mobile banking usually have a lot of money put away. Places like that, remote areas where they have zero network, usually have the best let me say wallet rate. They usually pay on time and usually pay in advance. Instead of paying bi-weekly or monthly, they end up paying 3 months in advance. So we end up not excluding such clients. We have people who have been trained, who are trustworthy to work with such clients. Because if we were to exclude like people who don't have mobile money, I'm sure we wouldn't have 10,000 clients in our company, because most of our clients live in remote areas that have no access to network or internet at all.
And I think that that's going to become more important as well in the next kind of 5 years as we get towards 2030, because we have the low-hanging fruit now, and all, you know, new customers that we're going and targeting now, are those harder to reach, are more likely to be not accessing mobile services and mobile money. So yeah, great point, Sarah.
Thanks. Well, yeah, that was really interesting. Another question, maybe more put to Rebecca, would be, can you tell us a bit about how such frameworks can be of support to women's financial inclusion, like kind of policies and regulatory frameworks, and how they kind of support that inclusion aspect?
Yeah, I think one of the, you know, the biggest barriers that the company or customers face often is that when it comes to accessing formal financial services, that often depends on having formal ID. It can require a male guarantor in some countries. So there are a lot of hurdles for women customers. And like I said earlier, I think PAYGo has really sort of broken down those barriers and given that access to credit without those same barriers. But what we want to do now is really kind of enable the PAYGo payments to kind of link in with formal banking systems. And one way to do that is through credit reference bureaus. So that's what Gogla is looking at. And we are hopefully we'll start to do this in Kenya, because regulatory requirements are very easy to work with there. So different in other countries, but Kenya has a mature regulatory system. It has a mature credit reference system already in place that makes it easy, we hope, for PAYGo systems, PAYGo companies to integrate, and customers, women and men, will be able to then use their PAYGo payments to build a credit profile, and that will then give them better access to other financial services from more traditional providers as well. So yeah, so I think on a policy side, really looking at how do we break down those barriers that traditionally women face.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I think, yeah, it'll probably take a while to break those barriers down, but we'll do our best. Another question for Audrey, which is actually an audience question, but I think you might be best placed to answer this. The question was a question about the small differences in percentage points between men and women on the variables or parameters measured, and whether those differences have any statistical significance or difference in terms of like what that error is kind of based on.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And yeah, just like the straight answer is no, there wasn't any statistical significance in terms of some of the data points. And we, so just thinking about how can we ensure that, you know, we're collecting impact data and disaggregating to really understand the experiences of men and women. And so at 60 decibels, we do have a gender experience score. And so this is a score where we're able to assess some of the core metrics. So when I say core metrics, 60 decibels metric, this is first thinking about first time access. What does that look like for men and women? Thinking about satisfaction, so that NPS rating, thinking about challenges, thinking about issue resolution, and also the customer service, so customer effort score. Are women able to get service easier? Is it more difficult than men? And so from this gender experience score, we are able to see that men and women actually have similar experiences. So the score basically is, it goes from -1 to 1. And a score of 0 means that men and women are experiencing have similar experiences. And so from all of the data that we collected, so that is the 79,000 plus respondents, we see that the gender experience score was a 0.02. So which is good. It shows that, you know, generally, at least the men and women that we spoke with are experiencing similar things. But again, through our data, we still are able to see some of the differences in terms of who has access to like higher cost products. We see that women are lagging behind compared to men. So we're able to identify some of these barriers to accessing some of the products that might also have an impact in a major way, even though, again, like we said, basic access, like solar lanterns do create the most impact, at least from our respondents' perspective. But that's a good question. It's not really statistically significant. We see that they have similar experiences, at least across the core metrics that we've picked for this gender experience score.
Thanks, Audrey. It's good to see that there's not some, you know, major errors or major differences in the data, which is kind of reassuring in one way. But of course, there's a lot more work to be done. I think I'll probably got time for one more question. So I'll put one more question in, which is more of a general question to all of you. And this will be kind of, what can the sector do to support more women working in these kind of spaces? Anyone can go first.
I will go first, and just as a one-liner, I think raising awareness is really keen. So on the operational side, you know, we have even companies that have worked really hard to increase kind of gender representation and gender balances in their workforce. It still can be centralized to certain positions, and it's great to see, you know, Stella as a technician, because there aren't that many female technicians as well. And I think really kind of mainstreaming gender inclusion throughout all of a company's processes starts with raising awareness about the need, about the benefits, and about, you know, the opportunities that that can bring.
As a solar technician, I think that it would be nice if they, for women working in my area, create or provide flexible work policies. Women, especially those who have family responsibilities, may find it a bit challenging to have to work irregular hours, travel a lot, which I do, or stay in remote areas for a long period of time. So I think if there were flexible scheduling or family leaves, you know, I think it would help. Or if women in general were told, like, you're technician, you can take weekends off. I think it would actually be a bit attractive for women to actually want to work as solar technicians. For us, with like 14, a group of 15 with me, and 13 are men, and I have 2 women. They go, sometimes I try as much as possible to bring women on board, but it's a bit difficult because of the flexibility. The work schedule is a bit hard for them. But I think if you were to implement good policies that benefit women, it would actually it would help. It would encourage women to be technicians.
So I think for me, I'll say again, investing in women-led, locally owned companies, just because that we've seen that, you know, they are creating quite a sizable impact, and so having targeted investment in such companies will lead to this organization scaling their impact, as also we've seen that they tend to also be more inclusive, and so this means they will do a better job at reaching those underserved populations. And then like Stella's mentioned, really investing in supporting workforce development and opportunities for women. So not just in terms of, okay, we are providing a job, there's a slot for you, but really thinking about what does the experience for women look like, and how is that different, and how can we create policies that, you know, will support them, rather than them just having access and then leaving the workforce because there's some barriers that they face that no one has thought through in terms of the design of either a program, whether that's a job opportunity, and so forth. And then just thinking about how to be gender sensitive in terms of consumer protection. Luckily, like I said, we see that there isn't much of a difference in terms of the men and women and some of the experiences they have, whether that is over indebtedness, the burden of repaying for their products, or whether that is in terms of thinking about like the transparency companies have offered for men and women. There isn't really great differences, but again, I will say for 60 decibels, I will have to caveat, we do speak to people who have access to phones. So all of our surveys are through remote based surveying. So you can imagine there is a group that I've heard, you know, people speaking about, there is a group that don't have phones, either they don't own or even have access to phones. So we're not listening to those voices. So I can't really say for sure then that companies are providing like the same experiences for men and women, because it's just for the subset that we've spoken with who have phones, and of course they tend to also be higher income compared to those people who we are trying to really not leave behind. Yeah.
Thanks all for that, and thank you for being amazing speakers and giving your insight in your different industries and how that all relates in with gender inclusion, and it shines the light on the gender lens of our financial models as they currently are, which is important nowadays to ensure a just energy transition for the future. So thank you all. I've really enjoyed that. So now we would like to, I'd like to ask Mariama from what she's heard, what you'd really like to see in financial inclusion for women as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Radhika. And before I go to the call to action, I would just really like to say thank you very much to all our speakers, even me myself, and I'm sure the audience have found this webinar so insightful, full of knowledge, full of data, the impact on the ground, which is what we're all in the sector working towards, right? We're all working towards achieving SDG 7 by 2030. We really want to see that move from people using much more cleaner technologies, which is helping them economically, having an impact in the community, and especially for women. And before the webinar started, and when I was thinking about my call for action, I had a run through like the different audience members that's going to be here. And I feel the call for action is really going to be focused on that. So we have funders. So from Smiling Through Light's perspective, we have like previous funders, Afford, our current funders, Whole Food Planet Foundation, we have EA Foundation and Norton Rose Fulbright, which is our new corporate funder. We've also got researchers, government officials from Sierra Leone, we've got the Renewable Energy Association of Sierra Leone, which is doing really great work on the ground supporting members like us. We've got 10 ECOWAS through the ROJET project, and they've also been doing a lot of work, especially supporting local entrepreneurs within the West Africa region, the World Bank, Sustainable Energy for All, and newly the USAID Power Africa program, which has been implemented by Tetra Tech, so the new Empower West Africa program. Thank you guys so much for all the support in promoting this webinar. So for me, our call for action, just based on what we hear in the sector from our experience, is one, finance. Finance for locally led businesses, especially women-led businesses. We've heard the data, we see the impacts that they have. We just really need much more support around that to ensure we shine a light and develop all our different enterprises. Secondly, showing much more impact reporting and data collection, because previously you'd find from businesses, entrepreneurs, even myself, it was based on experience. But now the data is there, the data shows, the data also guides work. So I feel like the sector should also be putting an emphasis on data collection and supporting that. And thirdly, showcasing more female solar technicians like Stella, and providing essential training facilities for that. I know the new, like ICRI is doing some work around this, ROJEP also for the region, but we need much more support around that to showcase women, providing facilities for training so we can have much more solar technicians who are female leading on this work. So those will be my call for action: a focus on finance, a focus on impact and data collection, and a focus on showing women and female technicians and just entrepreneurs working within the sector for a just energy transition. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariama, for giving your insights. It's been great. And now I'd like to hand over to Claire to give the closing remarks.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Claire, and I'm joining the call on behalf of Whole Foods Market Foundation. Many of you may be familiar with Whole Planet Foundation. As of earlier this year, we merged 3 foundation projects, including Whole Planet, into Whole Foods Market Foundation. Our mission is to support financially excluded people with access to income-generating opportunities. And we've specifically carved out within our mandate support for off-grid households under our Water and Energy Fund. This is to support with basic needs alongside income-generating activities. I'm so pleased that I was able to join for this spotlight on Smiling Through Light, because Smiling Through Light is a particularly interesting organization for Whole Planet because of the threads of social microfinance, entrepreneurship, and impact that run through the organization. Through the Whole Planet lens, Smiling Through Light is running a social microfinance program. They've created a loan product with accessible and appropriate terms, and they are leveraging PAYGo to keep their portfolio quality strong. When visiting Smiling Through Light customers, the first thing you'll notice is that so many are women micro-entrepreneurs. The solar lamp is a business tool that they can use to extend their business productivity. And lastly, we've also seen uses of the solar lamps at home, replacing other dirtier or more dangerous lighting approaches, helping children to study in the evening, and also offering household security. I was so pleased that Audrey really highlighted the findings from the Why Off-Grid Energy Matters report from 60 decibels. I think particularly the statistic that it is locally owned and women-led enterprises that have the highest impact scores is just, it's truly remarkable. I also know that Smiling Through Light was particularly highlighted for their performance in that report. And given the impact proposition for solar enterprises in this category, which we've also noticed across our portfolio, Whole Planet has been working under a relatively new fund called the Spark Fund. The Spark Fund offers an entry-level investment of $50,000 through a more simpler loan appraisal process. And we have also waived some of our historic requirements. So Smiling Through Light was the first Spark Fund awardee in the West Africa portfolio. And we're really keen to build on this relationship with Smiling Through Light and also to incorporate other similar organizations into the fund. Our general experience has been that when income generating opportunities and assets are in the hands of women, they are used for the benefit of the whole households. Every time I visit our partners' customers, women entrepreneurs always tell me how their business profits are invested in their children's school fees and household needs. At Whole Foods Market Foundation, we're really proud to be supporting Smiling Through Light, and we continue to seek out other women-led social enterprises who are promoting financial inclusion, income-generating opportunities, and energy access for women. Thank you, Mariama, for all the work that you and your team do every day, and thanks to all the presenters who have shared their perspective and thoughts in the panel today. I hope the insight and impact shared from Smiling Through Light specifically, but also from the wider sector, will bring additional funding and resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, I think it's important to highlight the work that's gone into this. So thank you, Mariama, especially for hosting this event. And thanks to the support by Global Distributors Collective, and all the speakers have shared such valuable insight into how PAYGo Solar models aid financial inclusion. So thank you all for that. And thank you all for joining as well. I hope this knowledge sharing session has been helpful and you've got something out of it, just some food for thought.